The signal the stars above the planet Alaris had not changed in thousands of years. Quiet, cold, distant. But tonight, something stirred in that silence. The signal had been sent. Captain Loro stood in the command tower of the Alarian outpost. His hands shook as he watched the message countdown. The last chance. The last cry. They had no fleet left, no soldiers strong enough, no courage to fight anymore. Their enemy, the Creel, had crushed planet after planet. And now, Alaris was next to the signal was simple, to any who hear, please help. We are dying. The room stayed quiet after the message left. No one said a word. Everyone knew what it meant. Asking for help from Earth was not easy. Everyone in the galaxy feared Earth. Not because of their numbers or weapons, but because of their people, humans. Deathwelders. Creatures born on a planet so harsh that every living thing had to become strong just to survive. No other species understood how they lived. Earth had storms that shattered cities, animals that hunted like demons, plants that poisoned with touch. And humans had not only survived, they had thrived. Many called them monsters. But tonight, Loro hoped they would be angels, do you think? They'll come? Asked a young officer beside him. Loro didn't answer. He only stared into the stars, across the galaxy, on a dark space station floating silently near a black hole. An alert blinked on a human screen. Inside, a tall figure stood. Alone. Her boots clicked as she walked forward. She had no rank on her chest, no flag on her shoulder, only a strange tattoo across her neck, Terror Unit 9. She read the signal once. Then again, her lips moved. Thunder, she whispered, moments later, lights turned red across the station. Sirens wailed. Ships powered up. And from the shadows, soldiers emerged. They wore dark armor. Heavy. Scarred. Not one of them smiled. These were not peacekeepers. These were not diplomats, they were Earth's deathwelders. On Alaris, Loro stared into the sky. He noticed a shimmer, just for a moment, then came the sound. A thunder rolled through the atmosphere. Deep. Loud. Growing. Stronger. Everyone looked up. The clouds split apart as massive black ships broke through, moving like falling hammers. The humans had come, and they brought thunder. First contact. The skies over Alaris turned dark as Earth ships descended. Massive engines roared like storms, shaking the ground. The people of Alaris, small, thin, with wide eyes, watched in fear and hope. They had called for help, but now they wondered, had they summoned something worse? Captain Loro stood outside the outpost with a line of his officers. His voice trembled. Hold your ground. No sudden moves. These are not like us. One of the massive ships slowly lowered, its landing gear digging into the rocky surface. The metal hissed. Steam burst from the edges. Then, silence. The door opened. Out stepped a figure, tall and wide-shouldered, dressed in black armor with red stripes across the chest. A helmet covered their face. Another followed, and then another. Within moments, a full squad stood before them, silent, unmoving, like statues. Loro stepped forward. I am Captain Loro of the Alarian Defense Post. We sent the distress signal. Thank you for. The lead human raised a hand, stopping him. The helmet clicked. It opened, revealing a woman's face, cold, calm, sharp as stone. You sent the signal, she said. Her voice was low but powerful. Loro nodded quickly. Yes. We are under siege. The Creel have, we know, she said. Where are they now? Loro blinked. They are moving through our southern cities. They are fast, brutal. Our weapons don't work against their shields. We have no time. You do now, the woman said. She turned to her squad and gave a simple command, engage. Without another word, the humans moved, swift, silent. A dropship behind them opened. And more soldiers poured out, deathwelders, each one trained on a planet that never gave mercy. Some were tall and built like tanks. Others moved like shadows. Every one of them looked like a storm wrapped in armor. The Alarians stared in awe. Some looked afraid. Others fell to their knees. Loro watched in silence. He had expected help, but not this. These were not just warriors. They were living weapons. He whispered to himself, what have we called upon? Hours later, reports came in from the southern front. The Creel were attacking a city near the mountain range. By the time they arrived, Earth's Deathwelders were already there. Laura watched the battle through drone feeds, streams shaking with explosions and smoke. The Creel marched with plasma cannons and hover tanks. But the humans didn't hide or run, they charged. One Deathwelder jumped onto a tank, ripped open its hatch, and dropped a grenade inside. Another human fired a rail rifle so strong it sent a Creel flying 10 meters. A pair of soldiers, barely speaking, moved as one, clearing a street corner in seconds. The battle was not fair. It was never meant to be. It was thunder crashing through fire, and Earth soldiers never stopped moving. At the outpost, Lauro turned to his officer. They didn't ask for payment, or favor, or rule. The officer stared. Then why are they helping? Lauro looked up, eyes wide, because someone cried for help, he said, and that was enough. The Creel brake smoke curled above the ruined city. The streets were filled with broken machines, shattered metal, and silence. Where the Creel had once marched in perfect lines, there was now only scattered wreckage. The Deathwelders stood tall among the rubble. Their black armor was scratched, dented, scorched, but none of them had fallen. They checked their weapons, scanned the streets, and prepared to move again. Their orders were not to rest. The enemy wasn't gone yet, Captain. Lauro stood on a hill above the city, watching it all from a distance. He still couldn't believe what he had seen. The Creel had outnumbered the humans 3-1. But numbers had meant nothing. They didn't retreat, Lauro whispered. They broke. The young officer beside him, Myra, nodded. The Creel have never lost a city this fast. Not in all our history. Lauro's eyes narrowed. Then they've never met humans before. Down in the ruined city, the leader of the Deathwelders, Commander Ray, stood in front of a captured Creel. The alien lay on the ground, shaking, its armor cracked, one arm sparking. Why attack Alaris? Ray asked, her voice flat. The Creel coughed, leaking blue fluid. Because it was easy. You were all weak. Ray crouched, her eyes locked on the dying creature. Not anymore. She stood and walked away. One of her soldiers raised a hand. Commander, satellite data shows more Creel units massing in the west. Their flagship is still in orbit. Ray nodded. Then we keep going. They'll either run, or they'll burn. Later that night, Alaris's skies lit up again, not from war, but from hope. For the first time in years, a transmission went out from Alaris, not begging for help, but declaring survival. This is Alaris command, Lauro's voice said. We are alive. We are not alone. Earth heard us. And Earth has sent its thunder. Across nearby systems, frightened planets listened. Some cried in relief. Others whispered in fear, because if Earth's Deathwelders had truly returned to the galaxy, everything was about to change. Back at the Deathwelder camp, Commander Ray stood alone near a holomap. She didn't sleep. She never slept during operations. Another soldier approached. He carried a metal box. What's that? Ray asked. A gift, the soldier said. From the children of Alaris. It's food. Handmade. They said thank you. Ray looked at the box but didn't open it. She simply said, they survived. That's thanks enough. The soldier stood silent for a moment, then asked quietly, Commander, why do we do this? Why fight for people who fear us? Ray didn't look up. She just stared at the stars. Because we remember what it felt like, she said. To cry out and have no one answer. She placed a hand on her weapon, and we swore that would never happen again. Asterisk. The orbit burns. The Creel flagship hovered high above Alaris, massive and dark, shaped like a floating dagger. From orbit, the Creel warlord watched the disaster unfolding below. This shouldn't be possible, he hissed. They were supposed to fall in hours. A lower officer replied, trembling, it was the humans, warlord. Earth sent their Deathwelders. The warlord's eyes narrowed. I thought Earth vanished after the Rim War. Why would they return? For this weak planet. He turned to the others. No matter. Send everything. Bombard the surface. Erase them all. Down on the planet, alarms blared in the Deathwelder base. Commander Ray stepped into the command room, eyes fixed on the live satellite feed. Above them, the Creel flagship's weapons were glowing, charging for planetary strike. They are going to glass the surface, one soldier said. They'll kill civilians, another added. Ray didn't move. Then we take the sky. Within minutes, the humans deployed. Unlike other species, Earth had no need to ask permission to act. They moved with discipline, speed, and purpose. From hangars buried under the ground, Earth strike ships launched like arrows into the night sky. Sleek, black, and armed to the teeth, they flew in silence, guided only by the fury of their pilots. Commander Ray rode in one of them, seated beside the pilot. You sure about this? The pilot asked. Ray checked her weapon and nodded. We are not here to survive. We are here to end it. In orbit, the Creel flagship locked onto its target, but then came the signal. The Death Welders arrived, not in formation, but like a storm of knives. They didn't ask for surrender. They didn't fire warnings, they struck hard. Explosions tore across the outer hull of the Creel ship. Human fighters zipped between defense turrets, dodging lasers, planting bombs on weak points. In less than 2 minutes, 3 Creel gunships were in flames. Inside the flagship, panic spread. Where did they come from? They are too fast. They are humans. They don't fly like anyone else. Ray and her squad breached the hull of the flagship directly. No one else would have tried. But Death Welders didn't think like the rest of the galaxy. They tore their way inside and fought through narrow halls. Blasters fired. Bodies fell. Ray moved like a shadow through smoke, always ahead, never stopping. At the core of the ship, she planted the final charge. The Creel warlord, bleeding and furious, confronted her. You fight like monsters, he spat. Ray stared at him. We are what you made us. Then she pressed the detonator. The Creel flagship exploded in orbit, lighting the sky of Alaris like a second sun. People below stopped and stared. Some wept. Others cheered. Captain Laura watched the fireball from the ground. Is it over? Myra asked. Laura gave a slow, amazed nod. I think it is. Asterisk echoes of thunder. For the first time in weeks, the sun rose over Alaris without the sound of war. The people came out from shelters, from tunnels, from ruins. Families gathered. Soldiers rested. Children, who had once cried at every distant explosion, now laughed as they pointed at the sky where the Creel flagship used to be. There was only smoke now. And peace. Captain Lauro stood in the city center, where hundreds had gathered. His clothes were torn, his face tired, but there was a quiet pride in his voice. We are alive, he said into the public comms. Because Earth remembered us. The people cheered. Some raised banners. Others simply bowed their heads, but not far away, in the human command camp, things were different. Commander Ray walked through the wreckage of their battlefield base. Human medics treated the wounded. Engineers were already rebuilding what the Creel had damaged. But Ray didn't stop to talk. She moved straight toward the new orders waiting on her screen. Another planet. Another signal. Another fight, always forward. She paused only when a local boy came running toward her, no older than 10. His hands were dirty, his shirt ripped, but his eyes were bright. He held up a small piece of metal, twisted and burned. This fell from the sky, he said. Is it from the human ship? Ray looked at it for a moment. It was a part of the Creel flagship. Bent. Broken, she nodded. Yes. It's from the ship we ended. The boy smiled wide. Then I'll keep it. To remember you. Ray finally gave a small nod. Good. But don't remember me, she said. Remember that you survived. That your people stood strong. She placed a hand on his shoulder gently. And if the day comes when someone else cries for help, you answer them. Just like we answered you. Later, as the Death Welders prepared to leave, Captain Lauro arrived at the camp. You're leaving already? He asked. Ray turned to him. There's another world that needs thunder. Lauro hesitated. We didn't expect this. We asked for help, but you gave more than that. You didn't ask for mercy, Ray said. You asked for strength. Lauro smiled. And you gave us hope. Ray didn't reply. She simply walked toward her ship. As the engines fired up, the ground trembled again. Not with fear, but with power. Thunder was leaving Alaris, but its echo would remain. The message spreads as the Earth ships left the skies of Alaris. Their black holes vanished into the stars, but their presence remained deep in the hearts of those who had survived. In the days that followed, the story of Alaris spread fast across the galaxy. News networks showed images of burning Creel warships, of human warriors walking through fire, of terrified civilians hugging the very monsters they once feared. People couldn't believe it. Earth had returned. And they had brought their Deathworlders with them, but it wasn't just about war. The message was clear: if you cry for help, Earth will hear you. On distant planets, governments argued behind closed doors. In the capital of the Olaris Union, leaders debated in panic. If Earth is active again, said one diplomat, what happens to the balance of power? They are not asking for territory, another said. They are just responding. Yes, but what if they keep responding? What if they don't stop? In the corner, one quiet voice spoke, maybe that's what the galaxy needs. Back on the Terran strike ship Fury Blade, Commander Ray stood alone in the strategy chamber. Holomaps blinked around her, showing dozens of red dots, each one a world in distress. Behind her, a soft voice spoke, we are getting more signals, Commander. All across the Outer Rim. The Creel, the Rythus, even pirate fleets, everyone's testing the weak. Ray nodded. Then we don't wait. We choose one, and we go. The soldier hesitated. But which one? Ray looked up. Whichever is screaming the loudest. In the training wing, Deathworlders were preparing. New soldiers, young but dangerous, trained beside veterans with scars too deep to count. They didn't joke. They didn't boast. They simply prepared. One recruit asked her instructor, why do we fight for them? They feared us before. They locked Earth out of the council. The instructor gave a tired laugh, because we remember what it's like to be left alone. Meanwhile, on Alaris, Captain Loro walked through the rebuilt plaza. Statues were being placed, memorials to the fallen. And in the center, a tall pillar was being raised. It held no weapon. No face. Just a single carved line. When Thunder answered, we were not alone. Loro looked up at the stars. They came like giants, he whispered, but they left as legends. Asterisk. Where thunder leads, the stars looked calm again. But everyone now knew, silence in space didn't mean peace. It meant something was coming. And sometimes, that something wore the mark of Earth. Across the galaxy, the Deathworlders continued their missions. From desert planets to frozen moons, they answered distress signals with unmatched strength and unstoppable force. Every new battlefield added to their legend, but to Commander Ray, it wasn't about being a legend. It was about the promise. She stood once more at the edge of a ruined colony, where buildings still burned and children cried. Another planet. Another call. And once again, Earth had answered. Ray gave the same orders: secure the zone. Feed the people. Burn the enemy. And her soldiers followed, without question. Back on Alaris, things had changed. No one feared the night anymore. Children slept peacefully. The skies above were clear, and the people planted crops instead of laying mines. There was laughter again, small and shy, but real. Captain Loro sat on a bench overlooking the city. Beside him, young Myra read the latest reports. More worlds have been saved, she said with a smile. Earth sent teams to Tenra, Voxus, and even the old mining moons. Loro nodded. And the galaxy is watching. He looked up at the stars. They begged for help, and Earth didn't hesitate. Myra closed the report. Do you think they'll stop one day? Loro shook his head. Not until every cry is answered. That's what makes them different. That's what makes them human. Far from Alaris, deep in space, the Fury Blade drifted silently. Commander Ray stood in front of her squad. Dirty. Tired. Scarred. Today, we move again, she said. Another planet, another fire. But you all know why we do this. She looked each one in the eye, because when others turn away, we step forward. Because we are forged by a world that tried to kill us every day, and we survived it. Now, we bring that survival to others. She lifted her helmet, and when they hear our ships in the sky, they don't just hear engines. They hear thunder. And across the stars, wherever darkness threatened the innocent, the sound of thunder was never far behind, because Earth had returned and the Deathworlders marched with it. Star.